Oh yeah, you know what that sound means. Coming in hot and heavy. That's right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It's your boy SnakeBones. Here with the guest mix for my guys TriCity. Super pumped on this one. Tons of originals. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go for a ride. Y'all with me? Let's get it. Yeah. Let's get it, y'all.
it like that, like that, like that, like that. Do it like that, like that. Do it like that.
Yes, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Looking forward to the next part of this with my guys, TriCity. Again, my name is SnakeBones. You can catch me every Wednesday at the Wednesday Night Windup. Check my Twitch channel. It's been scrolling up at the top. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Also, while we're at it, second tune in the set, forthcoming on the Big Bite Summer compilation on Spoonfed Records. That's coming out July 25th. Definitely check that out. All right. That's it. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. Thank you so much for having me. Much love, y'all.
All right, welcome, guys. Welcome to a new episode of TriCity Live.
TriCity Live. Hope you guys enjoyed that mix.
It was dope. I know we enjoyed it. We got a really special guest today. We got SnakeBones. How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, y'all. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course, man. Of course. We're fans, man. We've been fans.
Yeah, same. I do you guys stuff.
Yeah, ideally, we wanted you here in studio and have everything set up here with the decks behind us, but sure. Unfortunately we can't. But we'll do what we can here.
Exactly. Soon we'll be out. Soon enough we'll do this.
Sure, man, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the mix just because obviously people may know or don't know, but I mean those were all original tracks. So
yeah. I thought about it, right? Like I was gonna play other stuff, but it's like I figured nobody has that stuff.
No, man. I mean, it's that should be any goal.
The second tune is about to come out, so I figured that was probably wise. Just get a little hype out there for it.
Yeah, for sure.
But and then ultimately that's it. Is like we all get our tunes on like, Beatport, Track Source, whatever, wherever you get your tunes. But like a lot of us are playing the same stuff, and it's cool to hear how somebody can rock that tune. But I figured wait to see that live. I don't know. I just wanted to make it a little more special.
Yeah, dude, we enjoyed it. It was really cool.
Yeah, right on.
So we wanted to start it with, where basically your origin stories. Everybody likes to hear people's origin stories, and we've talked a bit about it in the past, and like how we know you got a good amount of experience. So like, how did that all start for you? How long ago and everything?
So I'm a vet, so I'm an older guy. I was like a raver in the '90s, right? So I remember the first time when I wanted to learn, like when I decided I wanted to learn to DJ. I already like had wanted to be like a hip hop DJ, right? Like I had rap records and whatever. Not good, but I had a radio show on the college radio station because the girl I was dating in high school, her brother was the station manager, and so I would go in there and get to play all the like. I would fish through for all the like Wu-Tang Clan, and I was like East Coast hip hop.
Oh man, that's dope that you have some hip hop backgrounds, man.
Yeah. So I was like super into all that, and then I started going to raves. Like this other girl I was dating later started taking me to raves, and like I remember I had a friend who DJ'd. I saw him play this party one time and just crush it, and like have the crowd super vibing, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. Like, that looks like a lot of fun. So that was the DJ bug, right? And of course, that was when vinyl was still the industry standard, carrying heavy ass records to the shows and whatnot.
Crates.
Yeah, crates, man, and like, so that, and then of course, eventually through DJing, like, you get into production sooner or later. I think. I mean, I don't know if everybody does, but for me, that was the path, particularly because like I'd gone from I played Speed Garage when I first started playing. Like, that's some throwback shit, which is funny because it's sort of come full circle. I have to do that stuff again. But I'd gone from that, and then I fell real heavy into drum and bass, and was like junglist for a long time. Really into that. Like, I really like the neurofunk sound palette, and was jungle forever, and then found dubstep for a little while, and then went to Burning Man. And remembered that I liked house, and here we are now. that's the short version of the origin story.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for what? How long? Probably like officially DJing.
Jeez, probably at least 20 years now, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man, that's.
Yeah, I've been. I don't know. I mean, I got into production pretty short after because like drum and bass culture is really heavily into like. Especially at the time when it was like dub plates, right? What's new? What's next? What's the brand new shit, cutting edge that people just made today? And like what you had before was old. So like calling the record stores, I used to call Compound Records in San Francisco. Like I'm from Colorado originally, so I was calling San Francisco and like ordering records out there and like like trying to stay on top and always have the new shit. And that's what ultimately led me to want to produce, was because eventually it's like, fuck, man, like we're all making these calls to there or Breakbeat Science or wherever it is, and like it's hard to stay on top of the newest shit. So the best way to have the new is just make your own.
There you go, make your own stuff. There you go. Well, I guess that's a good segue to this next part that I was gonna ask you. Through your experience over the years, what have you seen the evolution of DJing? I mean, you're talking about like all those things you had to go to today. These youngsters. We're youngsters in the sense of DJing experience, but obviously we're a little bit older. Like, talk to these young cats of like, man, you guys go online, get a song in 2 seconds. Like, but you're talking about having to call another state, so like talk about that.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, let's go from, I think I touched on it a little bit. Heavy ass record crates, man. Like if you used to travel for a gig, you'd have this a flight case. And then those were heavy. If you had a packed flight case, especially if they were all 12 inches in there and you stack, like that shit gets heavy, man. And you're walking, through LAX or, one of these big ass airports, O'Hare or something. So then you got to get a little like wheel case to go with it. So that, going from there to now where it's like you show up with your headphones in a bag and a flash drive, that's kind of a, mind blowing thing.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be crazy. I think about that. We didn't, obviously have to experience that part. But I'm like, dude, we carry thousands of songs with us to
Yeah.
our gigs to be like, you never know what you're gonna be playing. But how did you do that like with like records and it's like vinyls? Like that's got to be tough.
Well, and that's even another element of it, right? Like when Serato first came out, I was like, oh, right, because you can still get the tactile feel of playing on turntables or controller or whatever it is. Like, but being able to, because back in the day when you're flipping through your records, going like, first of all, after a gig, your records are a shit show because you're just trying to get them out and on, for the mix in time and whatever. So getting them back in the sleeves and all that. That's one thing, but also just fishing through trying to find that tune in the first place because like I said, like might just know the right tune for the moment, and being able to go and just type it in and it pops up and drop it in the deck is like it's very powerful.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of advantages to like the digital DJ thing now.
And you get and I think you hear different. I mean, I think there's still more on that side. There's still kind of like the old heads that are kind of like, well, unless you're spinning vinyl, you're not real DJing and stuff like that.
Sure.
I've heard that. I've heard it from the old timers, and I'm like, I mean, I've never done it, so I respect it. I respect the game in that way. But I'm like, dude, I mean, like you said, you got to go with technology and how it advances to help you do better in what you're doing. As long as you still kind of keep the core of it. We've talked about that. I guess essentially real DJing, like I'm saying, like there's still that we talked about in our last episode. There's still the aspect of reading the crowd, playing the right, like you said, tune at the right time. They're not responding. Let's adapt. Let's do something different. And I think, and I guess that's what I was gonna say. Like, do you feel DJing because of how saturated it's gotten, like how cool it's gotten to do? Is it gotten better or worse? Is there still real talent out there to be able to do the DJing part of it? Because we all know, at least for us, we've talked about it, what DJing really is.
Well, so I mean, really, it comes down to because like what are the main, if you break down to like DJing and like what skill sets do you need to develop, right? Like selection, right? Obviously, you've got the tastemaker thing where you're picking the track. You got to have mixing ability. I know there's sync. I don't use it. People can use it. I mean, like whatever, I might be a little judgmental because I did come from those vinyl days where like there was you didn't even get to see the pitch, to show you. Like you had to actually mix it. Yeah. But I don't but whatever. I don't care, man. Like really, ultimately, 'cause I think selection comes down, and you still gotta, even with sync, you still gotta phrase it right. Exactly. Right? Like understanding the progression of the music and how you can lock those things into the right puzzle piece. And then there's also, the journey that you take someone through a set, right? Like what time slot are you playing might affect like what are you playing. And then like if you're early, like if you're the 11 to midnight, you want to like maybe start out a little vibier and then start to bang it like harder in your set. Or your peak hour, obviously you can go hard, or maybe if you're later in the night, like bring them down. So there's also knowing like what is the right vibe to play within the sound that you play, right? Because also then you gotta you don't want to like compromise your vibe, whatever that.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's why we talked about in our last episode that I guess the ins and outs of DJing that people really don't necessarily know, let alone obviously the crowd, but like I think people getting into DJing, spending the time of really learning the art and craft of DJing, like I feel like they're like, well, I'm just gonna go up there and play what I want, and I think that comes with experience as well, because we did the same, and then we kind of like, what, like they're not responding, like why? Well,
Carnage theory, like go bang it, like go harder than the headliner, like
dude, we did that. We went through that part where we had a list and we're gonna go through it no matter what, like even if it hurts everybody, like we're gonna just go through it, right? But we adapted, right? And we learned like, okay, cool, like this is how it's done. And
you don't want to kill the vibe, right? I mean, like ultimately the point is you're there to entertain the crowd, and like you want to be able to show like, oh, look, here's my great taste in music or whatever. But like your job as a DJ is like to keep the crowd
exactly
kill the dance floor.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and I think that's like one of the, like being versatile within yourself. Like you said, being true to yourself. I think as a DJ, you should play music. Like I think I've heard Layback Luke, like you play music that you like, but within, if you can't play something that you're not feeling yourself, but within the range of whatever you're playing, like you said, the time slot, who you're playing in front of, things like that. All that comes into, like, I think being versatile as a DJ. So it's a skill, definitely, that
there's like unwritten, it's like in, like, you know, we're sports fans, so it's like there's unwritten rules and things, and DJing is no different. There's no different, right? Like, I think people have it, well, how come the headliner, like, I should have, like, well, bro, understand, like, yes, there are some that just kind of bought their way there. Very few, because I don't believe you can buy success. So they've done their time. They've put in the work. They've earned that spot to be the you know, the headliner. You know, if you really want it, you'll get there, but you got to pay your dues, and that's like setting up the next guy. You know what I mean? So some people are like, nah, just, you know, I'm just gonna do it. It's like, well, that's an easy way to not get called back. You know, like, so.
Yeah. Egos are a big thing, and I get it, right? Because it's like we're all artists and trying to, like, express ourselves. But, you know, I think that's a huge part, is just, like, be cool, like, understand. I don't want to say know your place, because that sounds fucked up, but, like, if we're all trying to build a scene, like, know your role, right? Like, and play your role, and if you play it right, then you get the network effect. Like, just, you know what I'm saying? Like,
humility, right?
Yeah, be humble and just be cool, and it'll get you a lot further.
Exactly.
You know, trying to, I get it. Like, I'm a competitive guy, you know. Like, I definitely, you know, like, shit. You know, I definitely like competition, but I don't, you know, I'm not a cutthroat guy. Like, I'd much rather. I think rising tide raises all ships. So
yeah, there's a healthy way to compete. Like, you know, you see that guy, like, man, that guy killed his set. Cool. Like, now I want to up my game, and I want to kill that set too.
Yeah.
You know, instead of saying, you know what, I'm just gonna show this guy up because I'm just gonna do that to be a dick. It's like, well, that's not cool.
Yeah. No, I never understand that. Or, like, you know, it's sort of like, so along the same mindset is like producers who intentionally do something wonky with the phrasing in the track to throw off the DJ. I get it that you're like, oh, I want the DJs to really know this track or whatever, I guess. But, like, I don't know. For me, it's like making things less accessible doesn't seem like a good way to.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's like, it's just the little things that, like, we talked. I think we talked about it once at a show once, that, you know, you said we're not some huge DJs. We know that. I mean, our aim is to get bigger and better, but we know where we're at right now. And to me, it's like part of the humility part. But, like, we talk about, we're not headliners. We don't need intros. You know, like I think there's little things that these DJs fail, like
all the lights out, and,
you know, or like, I just want these, you know, new DJs coming in to really respect the game and be like, look, man, like, know how to beat match into your next set. You know, like, so many people don't do that, and I'm so impressed when I do see someone do that. That's what we were talking about. Hey, man, good job for beat matching it. You know, like,
yeah. Well, I mean, assuming you play the same music, it's one thing if, like, you're talking about a 20 BPM difference or something like that. That's okay, fine. Then find a classy way to, like, fade it out or use the effects or whatever, and then start using it, whatever. But like, yeah, I never understand the people that just come in and fucking cold cut the last guy's record, kill, and then, like, do this big epic thing. I mean, like, okay, Dead Mouse, like, whatever, man.
They get underneath the table and they're just waiting for the moment, and
yeah, but it's like, you want to put the vibes out good. Like, you kill it. You kind of kill the vibes when you, like, do that. So
exactly. I mean, for me, I like tagging with my friends, right? I mean, you guys get it. You're like a DJ duo. Like, it's fun to play with your buddies. So, like, that's sort of what you get to do. Like, and be like, oh, okay, you guys left it here. Nice. Like, let me see what I got that can go into this and get into my thing. Or, you know, even if you planned your first record, just, if it's within the right BPM, just fucking mix it in, man.
Yeah.
You know?
It's I think, like Adrian said, is like, as time has gone on, we realized how many DJs don't do that, you know? And it's kind of crazy. We kind of always kind of, like, I mean, not trying to be like dicks or anything, but we always kind of look at each other like, all right, I guess, you know, like, it kind of gets in your mind, like, all right, man, whatever you want to do. But
I mean, I guess that's really it, right? It's not for me to try to be a judgmental dick, but I can express how I think maybe it should be done. And for me, it's like, it's just more of like a friendly vibe thing, which is what attracted me to being a raver and ultimately a DJ and producer. in the
Right.
first place was like, oh, look, these people are cool. This isn't like a too cool for school type scene. Like people are
Yeah,
like,
and it's like also I think like
vibe.
if the DJ before you did his job right, then why would you want to kill that? You know what I mean? Like keep
Totally.
building on it, you know? But to stop the music and start again, it's like you're initially doing that with the crowd, right? So now you got to build them back up again, and it's just like why do that, you know? But
Yeah,
uh,
I agree completely. There is something you said, like, I know I'm not in house music and whatever, but coming from like drum and bass and dubstep and like even dance hall and shit, like I love rewind culture where appropriate. So that's the one time like stop the music, start over, whatever. But that's because it's like this element of crowd involvement with it, like, hey, and going,
yeah,
But that goes in
that's
with
a different thing, I think.
yeah, that goes in with the
Like,
the
with
skill of
house, man,
DJing.
like, just
Yeah.
ride the vibe. For
yeah.
sure.
So I guess that's a good part. The next part we're going to talk about is you're a producer. You produce your own music. So I want to touch on that and really like and actually you kind of answered it because I was going to ask you, did you start relatively soon after you started DJing? Because some people are like us. It took me like a year after through through a certain experience of like, you know what, dude, like you're right, like no, I don't have to call to San Francisco or stuff like that, but we didn't like, I guess, the experience that we had. I was like, well, the way we rectify that is we got to start producing. Like the game today is so different that you have to, for me, you have to produce. If you want to really make something of this, you have to produce your own music.
I agree. I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, right? So obviously that's not the hard and fast rule. I know some guys that are badass DJs that are actually been pretty good, but like, I think if nothing else, it gives you an edge, right? For a couple of reasons. First of all, it gives you, like I was saying, like something that nobody else has, which I think is cool. Like it also gives you leverage when you know somebody else that's a good producer, you can be like, oh, you want to like trade, right? So instead of like, instead of like begging dude to like give me the hookup, come on, I'm gonna play that, or like if you get the right place in the scene, you'll get on the promo list or whatever. You could actually like go direct to some of your favorite producers and just be like, here's some of my music, like I would love to get on like a trade basis with you if you're interested or whatever. So I think there's that benefit. And then I think furthermore it just helps you understand music better, right? Like I don't have a formal music background. Like I play bass a little bit and like I can jam on the keyboard, but it's only because of years of being an electronic music producer. Like I'm all by ear and self-taught. But so what I'm saying is like it forces you to like learn a little bit more about music theory. I mean, electronic music's pretty easy. Can you count to 4 times? Cool. Like, all right, now figure out how to build it around that. But there's also that thing where it's like you got to make your tracks sound like a collection of not loops, right? Like you need to start with like looping little pieces or whatever.
For sure. Yeah. And you're right. So, what you said there, like, and I learned that after that, when you start producing, I feel like it helped me in the DJing part as well. Like it really does, because one, your ear gets better. You train your ear better. You kind of, and vice versa, because you're like producing, you're like, well, does this work as a DJ? Because I always say this, and I've heard, and I think people really need to understand this, that DJing and producing are two separate things, two separate skills, right? So I feel like today, and I've heard this from a lot of people, that producers almost feel pressure to have to DJ to get their stuff out there because maybe they don't get the notoriety that they deserve, and or vice versa. But I was like, nobody should have to feel that they're pressured to do anything. I mean, kind of going to the Avicii story, right? Like that guy was an awesome producer that felt he had, and there was so much pressure on him to do that where it was too much for him. Anxiety, it's two different monsters, right? Like we talked about in one of our episodes, we started as a trio, my brother, but it's just the DJing part was not for him because it's just to be in front of a crowd, to have to perform to it. It's not him, right? So a
lot of people don't like that. Like they don't, like public speaking's the number one fear, right? So
and so with producing, like I think we both need each other. We both need to respect both arts. Yeah. So the next part that I was gonna say is like, again, through your experience, you're kind of an old head. Digital,
That.
digital or analog?
What are we talking about? Because I can actually really dig into that. Are we talking about producing specifically? So there's advantages to both, right? Hammer or screwdriver, right? Like, what's the right tool for the job?
Yeah, exactly.
So, so, you know, I love analog synths. Like, you can just get really fat tones out of them. I also love, you know, like I've been fortunate to play with like a Thermionics Culture Vulture and a few other like pieces of outboard gear that you can just do really cool things, like particularly with drive for distortion, and like you can just do you can do things that should damage the sound with analog that actually sound good a lot easier than you can with digital. Now, with that being said, when I'm traveling,
There you go.
serum, motherfucker. Like, you know, pardon my language, but like, you know, serum is every bit as great. I use serum for probably the majority of my synth work in my tracks. Like, it's so powerful. It's so versatile. So, you know, like I said, it's the right tool for the job. What do you need? Like, you can do different things. Like, there's different audio characteristics that you can get from analog, right? Like, I still love the crackle that comes from vinyl. Is that a better sound than, like, when people say vinyl sounds better than digital, what they mean is they prefer the sound of vinyl to digital. Like, if you're talking about actual, you know, quality of sound reproduction, like fidelity, digital is better. Just, you know, as far as recording a sound or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about the warmth that comes from analog, or, you know, driving a digital signal through an analog tube that gives the sound a characteristic that's just nice and warm and fuzzy.
Definitely, man. That's why I said we have so much respect for you, because like you can see those both sides of the coin. You know, I've talked to some old heads where they're like, like there's no way digital will ever add up to analog. You know, like never. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's so much advanced things that you can still do, and it's ever growing. You know, like where they're really trying to put these. I don't know if you can ever do it, but like these analog sounds into the digital world, and it's like it's pretty crazy. You know, I'm still learning producing. I've only been producing for almost 2 years now, so like you're learning so much and stuff. But you know, mine's pretty much I just have a MIDI, piano. Keyboard, and that's all I use. That's external. But you know, but yeah, I have, you know, family that has come from that kind of background, and but same thing, like they see the benefits of using digital as well.
Sure. I mean, it's like I said, it's just I mean, you know, I have snowboard gear. I got my little, I'll hold it. Oh, it's not there. We go. Little Virus TI. Like, you know, I like outboard gear. It's nice. It doesn't travel well. That's really my biggest complaint about like gear is like, if you've got and granted, like, you know, if you've got a $50,000 studio or whatever, you probably have it all rack mounted up and you're not trying to move it around a lot anyway. But you're going to write music other places than your studio, right? Like, you're going to travel, you're going to go visit family and friends, and you're still going to want to like be creative. Yeah. You know, I was in Colorado for an extended period last year for personal stuff, I'll just say. And I was so glad I had my laptop with me. I wrote 6 or 7 tunes in a couple of months just on my laptop. Even mixed them down in my headphones and like got to test them out. I got to play on some clubs while I was out there and like got to test them out in the club, and it was fine. I think ultimately at a certain level, like there's a threshold you get to as a producer that I think as long as you can like reference it other places, you can get to understand, like listen to it in the headphones, listen to it in the car. You don't need to be in the studio. Yeah. But obviously you can put like the polish on it, you know, like get back in, especially if you do have one of those big fancy studios, like, and you can get back in and really, you know, put the sparkle on because of the analog signal, or if you've got analog EQs or whatever, you know, there's, it's all just the tools, right? It's ultimately, it comes down to the producer.
For sure. And I think our world is so different than, I mean, we're still in the music world, and we're starting to get a little bit more respect within the whole entirety of it. But I always felt like we're kind of on the side, you know, with dance music, because, you know, it is all electronic and stuff like that. But
Influenced hip hop though. Like
right. So it's
over the last 10 years, hip hop's become very electronic. Like you know, popular.
Right.
yeah, definitely. And these huge studios that you see, I think are very still good for like live music, live recording. And because like you said, we can take our show on the road and do it on our laptops and I really do a lot with that with just really a laptop and some, decent you know, mixing headphones. Like you could a lot of producers produce like that. There are some who have their really nice, cool spaceship looking studios, but a lot of them because they travel so much is like, well, I have to do it on the road. And I mean, we've heard their tracks, they still sound dope. So
It's just like,
You don't need it. It's nice to have. You don't have to have it. You can make bangers with a fucking laptop and some headphones, really. Like plenty of people are doing that. That's another big evolution I've seen, right? I mean, like when I first started producing, it really was more outboard gear based. Like there were DAWs, right? But it was like they weren't nearly as developed as they weren't what they are now, like Ableton and Logic. Like Logic existed, Cubase existed, Sonar, but they weren't nearly what they were now. And still a lot of people I knew were using like hardware sequencers and like routing everything with MIDI and whatnot. And so I think production was a lot less accessible back, the 90s and 2000s. And so I think one thing with the major influx of new producers and accessibility, like I think, yes, you have like the early Netflix effect where like there's a lot of content, but not a lot of it's good. But then I think also at the same time, like the content that is good, the level rises, right? It's sort of like that. I can't remember the guy's name. First dude that broke the 5-minute mile, and then all of a sudden people all over the world could, or the 4-minute mile or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like once people know it's possible, they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go do that. So I think if you listen to the difference in engineering in electronic music from like the 90s rave, music, that stuff sounds so cheap and like poorly mixed compared to like Noisia. Right? Like Noisia, I'm like, I don't know how they did that.
You see these audio files like over the years they show them and like the waveforms that just keep growing because of like the amount that we can push it. And it's yeah, man, it's great. And kind of like overall, if you think about, like you said, like because of all this, because of the internet, the game changed for all of us. Like we were the accessibility, like you said before, unless you had to somehow the way to get to Capitol Records, you had no chance. But now,
dude, the fact that you said you're like, oh, I've been producing 2 years. Do you know how much better your tunes are at 2 years than mine were at like 4? Like just because there wasn't I think again that thing of like everybody is a producer now is like I think it's easier to learn, and especially with the YouTube and shit like that. So I'm so impressed with the quality of you guys' tunes. Like, short time as you've been producing, for sure. Like,
no, I mean
that's something that also amazes me is like just how quickly people get to the level that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Obviously, anytime you're a new producer, it's always nice to get that confidence booster back. But yeah, man, and like you said, like that whole Netflix thing is like, yeah, it's like over. Like you said, there's a lot of saturation, but you can never again. I don't think you can ever just fake your way there. It's like, yeah, those guys are gonna fall by the wayside, and the ones who really are, committed and doing the work, it's gonna show. Like you cannot fake through your productions, and it's like you'll hear it, and people they smell out when people aren't being genuine to what they really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, right? I mean, I certainly think what you're addressing there is like producing a sound because it's popular, because you want to get famous or whatever. Yeah. I think that's a road to the bottom, right? Because like it's one thing if like a new genre emerges and you hear it and you're like, ooh, I'm vibing with that, and like I'm gonna do this now or try it, see if I can do it. That's one thing. But when a new thing comes out and you're like, that's the super successful thing to do, I'm gonna make that now so that I can get in. Because like you still gotta, building a fan base is a grind. Like getting that exposure, like getting to the level is you know, to make a switch, like a big genre switch or whatever, is kind of a thing. And then you'll also have the risk of like, if you make a drastic enough switch, you could alienate your old fan base.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You know,
Right.
people that like the 100 BPM shit I used to make are not listening to my house music.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's true. Like, I mean, for us at least, we are dance music fans. Like, ultimately, we like so much. Like, yeah, there's some ones that maybe we just don't get, but for the most part, yeah, we really love dance music, and we respect the hustle, we respect the grind, but that doesn't mean we're just gonna produce everything, right? Like, I learned as a producer, inspiration is so key to be able to make your tunes. Like, you have to be inspired of what you're doing. You can't just look at an empty DAW and be like, all right, let's just slap some stuff there and like loop it, and eventually a song will come out. Like, no, it's like you got to be inspired to what you are actually creating, and that's something like I feel like as producers, when you're getting into it, it's so hard compared to I feel like DJing is still hard, but as you work, you get
curve.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you get better faster than producing. Is like so many steps that you're taking to just take one tiny step forward, but you got to keep grinding, and then eventually you'll start to get better and better and better. And that's what I saw. I said I barely start seeing results now 2 years later. Like, okay, I'm feeling more comfortable with what I'm doing, and that was a search to do. You can't just be like, I'm just gonna pick a genre. It's like, no, like what really speaks to you, and like,
they really gotta, like, find your vibe.
Oh yeah, because I think, and that's the thing. Like, you'll kind of mess around with different things, but then you'll kind of start to see, like, I don't know why I just keep coming back to the same thing. Well, there you go. This is what is inspiring me to make music, and that's where like finally we've landed. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like, specifically inspiration, right? Like, that's why I like to go out to the club still. I mean, obviously not so much. You know what I mean? Like, I love to go out and like see what works, and also like then you get exposed to new vibes, and like, I don't know, man. It's I don't want to copy anyone's sound, but I have no problem being influenced by something that that I catch the vibe, like.
Right.
Yeah, and like like everybody can't be like. There's so few times in history in general where people are just put on this earth geniuses. Like, right, there's only one Michael Jordan. Like Martin Garrix is a young kid that just was so granted that gift to know what he wanted at such a young age. Great, we're not all of them. Like, for the rest of us, most of the time, it's a, not to say they didn't work, they worked, but for us, maybe harder to find that niche and be like, okay, like now we found it. So like, just kind of don't compare yourself, don't try to copy, but be influenced. It's okay, and kind of work backwards.
Try to be better than you were yesterday.
For sure.
Right.
Like, just try to be better than yourself. That's. But I mean, on that note, I think it's okay to compare yourself to, especially to your peers, and like, there's nothing wrong with sort of benchmarking against what is possible.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But on this, don't be too hard on yourself about it. And I've certainly fallen victim to that. I got a buddy who's largely successful that it's always been, again, like a competitive thing, but I'm not like jealous and hateful about it. I'm just
right.
I know that's possible.
It's a big difference,
But that's cool, man. But well, man, we appreciate you coming on, man. Like, it was fun.
It's always fun. It's always fun to chat, talk shop, and philosophy and whatnot.
For sure, man. But before we go, I want you to tell people where to find you, what you got coming up. Just throw everything out there.
Cool. So you can find me at SnakeBones Beats on Twitch every Wednesday for the Wednesday night windup. I do a show. Been playing. I think I'm going to start doing some live producing on there soon. You can find me at SnakeBones Beats on Instagram, and then check out. I got a tune on Big Bite Summer, which is coming out July 25th. So that'll be on Beatport and all places where great music is sold. The tune's called All Night. It's a banger. The whole thing, man. I'm telling you, like, I've been fortunate to be able to have all the spoon-fed music as it comes out, and I'm honored to be on this compilation. And like, this is probably their best one yet. There's just so many dope tunes. So definitely check that out. And if you guys want to support me, I'd appreciate it. Pick up all night. Buck 25 can help me.
Yeah, we'll leave your links and everything in the description of the video of this video, so you guys can find them there.
And we have your track list that you sent, and we're gonna have it in the description. You guys see all his original tracks that he did in the mix. So, again,
appreciate the time.
SoundCloud too. SnakeBones.
There you go.
I try to make SnakeBones beats everywhere.
Yeah, we'll throw everything in the description, all the links.
For sure, man. We appreciate your time, bro.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on, guys. This was great.
All right, man.
Have a good one.